Men's national team win big versus Uruguay. Is Don Garber on his way out of Major League Soccer? And we get the Twin Cities reaction to the Major League Soccer calendar change. That and more on Wednesday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, where we dot the map of the American soccer landscape. Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, riding solo with you this morning. It is a battle of attrition. We got Jason on vacation. We got guest co-hosts getting out of here with emergencies, and producer Jenny is out after having a bacchiotomy. So it is Robert Kerr alongside the MK Ultras and the chat here on Wednesday.
For the record, I am still here. I'm not out. I'm just laid up on my back without access to a decent webcam. So I'm here pushing the buttons and making sure all of your lovely comments get on screen so that Rob doesn't have to do this completely by himself.
Yeah, so guys, I will be leaning on you a lot today. I don't know, Jenny, can we get my face even bigger on the screen here? I'm not sure. I'm boxed in. Oh, here we go. Full screen Robert Kerr here on a Wednesday. So good morning to all in the chat already. Gonna need you today. Good morning, Mario. Good morning, Jeff. Chris. Yeah, a little bit of a slow start, but it is a wonderful morning. Shout out to all of our new subscribers. We're well over 5,000 now, so thank you for hopping along the movement here. And shout out to all of the channel members, the MK Ultras. For just a couple bucks a month, they get priority access to commenting during these live shows, early access to videos, bonus videos, and access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server. In that chat this morning, in the Discord server, I put in there last night's men's national team was the biggest win since ... And people trying to come up with some answers. It might just stand alone, but we're going to come back to some of your replies later in the show. Also, surprise reporting, some drama going on in Philadelphia, as well as some rumors of Don Garber, MLS commissioner, kind of a succession plan coming together in Major League Soccer. So that's all happening, moving towards 3.0. And we have a guest at 10 a.m. Eastern. We are going to have Wes Bourdine on the show. He is bar owner and soccer guru in the Twin Cities. And there's been a lot of feedback to the Major League Soccer calendar change up in Minnesota. So we are going to get his firsthand account of how people are reacting to that change that might affect Minnesota more so than some other places. So with myself, the chat, and everyone else, and Jenny behind the scenes hitting the buttons, let's get into today's long balls here on Wednesday's Morning Kickaround. Welcome on in, Morning Kickaround. The headline of the day, it is the morning after one of the biggest wins in men's national team history, beating number 15 Uruguay, 5-1 win last night. Definitely the biggest win in Pochettino's era for the national team. And wow, I want to get your guys' reaction. We got some headlines. I'm going to do my James Richardson impression and kind of rattle off some headlines after a historic day for players and the program. I had a little bit of, I don't know if it's nostalgia or a bit of a flashback. I was, watching the game in my living room, the family doing their thing. And I kind of had a bit of a throwback in my mind to the drubbing Germany gave over Brazil in the World Cup, 10 plus years ago, when I was just yelling out, they got another one. That's 2. And then a couple minutes later, it's 3. And then we get to 4. And it was absolutely incredible. Was that the best 43 minutes that you've seen from the men's national team? Definitely in recent memory. I want to shout out some headlines. Some undefeated in 5 games. First international goal for Sebastian Berhalter, and then Freeman getting 2 on the night, and then the 4th goal came from Diego Luna. And then in the second half, I honestly don't remember all that much other than the red card and the goal, but Tanner Tessman getting the 5th of the night. I'll say this again in this video. I want to get some of the chat's replies. Last night's men's national team was the best performance and win since, and you fill in the blank for me there. You had to really knock out some cobwebs trying to think of the last time there was such joy and impressive performances from the men's national team. It really kicked off right from the start. There was, I should note, 9 changes in this starting lineup since Saturday's win over Paraguay. But going to the game notes, crowd, it was an NFL stadium in Tampa Bay, Raymond James Stadium. I was hoping for some cannon shots from the pirate ship they got there. I don't think they had that activated. Definitely not the biggest crowd down there. Wasn't sure what to expect having it in the NFL stadium. It was nice on Saturday in the MLS stadium in the Philadelphia area, but down in Tampa, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stadium, wasn't super full. There was not quite. I thought that maybe it was going to be packed to the rafters with Uruguay fans, but that wasn't the case. But the fans that were in attendance were absolutely treated to heck of a show by the men's national team. And I got to say, it's pretty hard to explain to the children why Marcelo Bielsa sits on a cooler on the sideline. It was hard to explain that to someone who had no idea. My son was saying, do they not have benches there? Why is he sitting on the cooler? But I had kind of forgotten Bielsa was leading Uruguay. They haven't been doing spectacularly well. They were short on a couple of their key players, but like I said, men's national team, 9 new starters, some of their key regular starters not in the lineup. And we'll get to Pochettino's reaction to the post-game questions asking about, where do the regular starters fit in? He did not like he did not like being asked about regular starters. He wants this to be a whole crew, but I'm going to do my James Richardson impression of going through some of the headlines that spawned from the media coming off the back of that impressive win. For those who don't know, back in the day, James Richardson would read the papers when, everyone would read papers. But I'll lead with my favorite headline coming off the back of the 5-1 win over Uruguay. Here we go. From FOTMob, Pochettino's side run riot in friendly thrashing. And how many times can we say that the men's national team ran riot? They've done so against teams like Kitts and Nevis and other Caribbean teams or other very small teams, but against the number 15 team in the world, not the case. Unbeaten in 5 games. Other headlines, ESPN, Freeman's brace gets him a 9 out of 10 as men's national team stun Uruguay. Fox Soccer calls this historic. The victory over Uruguay provides much needed 2026 World Cup momentum. And I would like to hear does momentum mean anything in the international game when there's such time in between games and it's not always the same group? Curious if momentum is a thing in this case. Obviously trending up because Copa America last year, we weren't feeling quite how we are feeling now waking up this morning. CBS says USA Soccer produced 5 goals in blowout win, make World Cup squad decisions harder for Michio Pochettino. The Athletic says in reaction to that post game, terse Pochettino blasts disrespectful question about regulars after the U.S. thrashed Uruguay. And one more of these. Yahoo Sports men's national team routs Uruguay 5-1 as young stars shine. Pochettino's World Cup build gains momentum. I mean, let's go into the comments. We've got quite a few. Lots of the MK Ultras hopping in with their say. Ulterior motivator sitting on the cooler. Yeah, someone filled me in on the Bielsa. I knew when he was at Leeds, but I forgot why he likes that squatting position on the sideline so much. One of our newest MK Ultras, haven't followed the men's national team long, but this is the best game he has seen from them. And there's that's no doubt about that. I mean, they've squeaked out some wins in the last few matches, but not necessarily against someone of the stature of Uruguay. And kind of breaking down the notes of the game, I can't believe, especially on that Diego Luna goal, the ease of passing and the way that there was just so many open passers. Men's national team players were able to pick their heads up, pick their spots. And then who was the young fullback on the left for the Nats last night? Tolkien on that as a third or fourth goal. I thought that the pass was going out of bounds, but Tolkien had like 10, 15 yards of space on the left side. He puts together a pass and bang, there was a goal. So kind of as the game went along, it was clear the Americans wanted to be aggressive. Berhalter, what do we feel about Sebastian Berhalter? He's had his critics, but Pochettino definitely has been picking him quite a bit. He definitely had like a kind of a spazzy energy that you don't see from men's national team players. He kind of looked like a man possessed at times and got in the middle of things and drew a red card in the second half. But his free kick at the beginning of the game, the one that started all of the goal scoring, the free kick routine, narrow angle, there's kind of a 1-2 off the set piece, and then Berhalter absolutely rips a curler. I was worried a little bit there that Haji Wright might get flagged and that brilliant goal gets taken away due to maybe some goalie interference or something like that. But the goal stood and the USA was off and running, and it was unbelievable to see one goal after another. Like I said at the top of this, I mean, I was just yelling out at the family. They scored again. They scored again. I couldn't imagine that going in. Predictions going into this game, people were not predicting hot results. People thought that Uruguay might come in here, especially when the lineup was much changed. People thought that Uruguay was going to, have their way, but that was not the case at all. USA didn't have the edge in possession, but obviously they took their chances. They were clinical against a top opponent when so often they aren't clinical. Like we saw in that Paraguay game, they had some really nice stuff moving forward, but they didn't finish it off. They ended up 2-1, could have been much more, but took advantage of all their chances. Can't really remember any missed chances in that game last night, but looking for that was the biggest win since ... What you got from there? I'm hearing seeing some comments on the post-game presser. Yeah, Pochettino got a question after this game asking him, what are you going to do about the regulars when they come back in? And the Athletic said it this way. He was terse in his response, was Pochettino, that saying this possibly, we can't go into this. This is a whole group and there's competition for places. We can't even go into a game with who are the regulars, who are the not. Everyone has to earn their place. And it definitely seems like there's a competition for places all over the map. I'm curious what you guys thought about the defense. They didn't have to do a whole lot, but they, other than a sloppy few minutes at the end of the first half, Aiden Morris basically crossed it into the middle of his own penalty area. And then a few moments later, there was some sloppiness. Some Matt Freese and a defender got mixed up, and it ends up into Uruguay's lone goal, a bicycle kick. So even for the traveling fans or the Uruguay fans, they had something to check in on, or something to celebrate, rather, I should say. Going into the chat, Ultras, thank you so much for hopping in and helping me as I roll solo here this morning. Noodleman, not an MK Ultra, but good chat here. He couldn't remember a game as long as I could remember. That felt good last night. Some hope. What is that? American national team fans, some hope to end 2025 with some hope. Not too many areas of our lives right now can we have hope, but men's national team, imagine where they were this time last year after Copa America and some less than desirable results. It's wild to think that the men's national team are undefeated in 5 games, wrapping up the 2025 calendar on a high note. Was that most of Uruguay's starters? There was mostly starters, but they were missing a few players. Definitely there was no Nunez, and you mentioned here Valverde, and then they got a red card in the second half, but that didn't necessarily the game was already over at that point. Looking into the comments here, nice one here, Chris. Yes, the young players definitely looked hungry. Freeman and Berhalter, obviously they got on the score sheet, but I was really impressed with their thrust into the attacking half and their willingness to not. They didn't overly respect Uruguay at all, and they were down to dig in. And there was some real bite in their game. There wasn't any. This is just a friendly, and running riot in a friendly. Love that headline from FOTMob. And I think a lot of people are thinking that they can't think of the last time they saw a result like this or a performance like this from the men's national team. So I'll go to the one that really stands out. Zach in the Morning Kickaround Discord server. He says this match stands on its own. So we'll wrap up that topic like that. Men's national team doesn't hit the field again until 2026, March 2026. So we got a good feeling in our gut as we round out the 2025 calendar, heading into the business end, the World Cup, the march to the World Cup, well and truly on, heading into 2026 on the back of a 5-1 win over the number 15th ranked team in the world, Uruguay. Big win, and I love to see the bite from Pochettino and his players last night, and then the press conference after. Our guest is waiting in the wings, so we'll get to Mr. Burdine in just a moment, but I did want to note another piece of news, talk about real quick, that was in the mix last night as we were watching the men's national team game. Per the Sports Business Journal's, MLS owners formally begin the succession planning for Don Garber and other executives' exit. According to the article, MLS owners held their first succession committee meeting for senior leadership, including Commissioner Don Garber, last week, according to 3 high-level sources. MLS has retained the Miles Group to lead succession planning process. Note that Garber's contract expires in the end of 2027, and I think that's around the time that the player CBA expires as well. There's another note in the Sports Business Journal. I recommend going in there. There's a lot more detail in there. But a small group of MLS owners held their first closed-door succession committee meeting last Wednesday prior to that vote to switch the MLS calendar. This committee is chaired by LAFC's Bennett Rosenthal, the Crew's Jimmy Haslam, and other members of the board of this succession committee are Revolution's Jonathan Kraft, Red Bull's Oliver Mintzlaff, and Nashville's John Ingram. MLS also said that Garber was involved in the meeting, so not going into that meeting without him. And in another under-the-radar news, MLS Deputy Commissioner Gary Stevenson announced that his own plan to retire after the World Cup. So there's some big changes happening in the boardrooms of power in Major League Soccer. And Gary Stevenson's quote in this Sports Business Journal article, quote here, "In the next 8 months, we are going to put the finishing touches on MLS 3.0, his words, so that once I leave, and I think once Don Garber leaves, the league will be in a place that next group can take it over and evolve." So lots of news happening in Major League Soccer. Haven't even got to the note about the executive in Philadelphia having some less than pleasant accusations pointed towards him in a article in The Guardian. So recommend those. Check that out, and we'll come back to that probably when Jason gets back into the seat next week. But American soccer, never boring, as lots of events are happening. USL, ProRel, Division I, Major League Soccer changing their calendar and changing up their boardroom, or at least planning to do so. All right, we're getting to the top of the hour, so we are going to dip into the hot topic of the day. Men's national team, already talked about that, but the calendar switch, the other big topic. So as we get going, hit that subscribe button, and if you'd like to become a member, we'd love to welcome new MK Ultras. Just a couple bucks a week gets you priority commenting on these live streams, early access to content, bonus content, and access to the morning Kickaround Discord server. Love the conversations that span from your local team, USL, Major League Soccer, national team conversation, and a whole lot more. Dot the map of MK Ultras as we dot the map of the American soccer landscape. All right. I've had them wait long enough. We are going to get into today's hot topic, the MLS calendar change from the perspective of Minnesotans. That coming up here on today's hot topic on Morning Kickaround. Welcome in. Hot topic of the day here on Morning Kickaround. My name is Robert Kerr, and last week Major League Soccer announced that they're going to switch to a Euro-centric calendar going through the winter. And here to discuss kind of the local reaction and a reaction from a local establishment that's kind of centered around the sport and the stadiums in his town, owner of the Blackheart in St. Paul and co-founder of the Minnesota Aurora of the USLW League. I'm happy to be joined by Wes Burdine. Thank you for joining Morning Kickaround this morning, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, busy times and exciting times in American soccer, no doubt. And so MLS, like I said at the top, changing their calendar, starting in the later summer, going through the winter with a break, and then having the business end of the season in the spring. I guess, what's been the reaction on the ground where you are? I've seen plenty of online Minnesotans react to this. What's it kind of been offline where you are?
Yeah, I think I think there's a lot of people mad in Minnesota, but I'm not sure people have seen it, how it's going to play out yet. The people I've talked to in person maybe are like less upset than the people online, which is maybe what you would imagine to be true. Personally, you know, I've got kind of two perspectives on it. One is just as a fan. I've been going to games for 15 years, and certainly going to games in June is heaven. In Minnesota, you know, the sun is up until 10 p.m. So you're getting out of the stadium. It's just gorgeous. And you're still walking home while the sun's setting. So that's pretty awesome. And then the other is as a bar owner, right? I own the Blackheart of St. Paul. It's a block away from Allianz Field, and a portion of what we do is game days, and those days are pretty crazy for us. I will say personally, I'm maybe less freaked out by all of this. I think that the weather is it's not the greatest thing for us, but the weather I think is just like a canard for all the other changes that are way bigger of a deal and way bigger problems, I think, for the league.
Interesting. I'm glad to hear that you're not freaking out, but mad in Minnesota is kind of a funny a turn of phrase. That almost sounds like a call-in show guy. Mad in Minnesota, calling in. But
concerned. Everyone's very concerned. That's really it.
Okay, so I do want to ask you, so the kind of the counterpoint to the calendar switch, the go-to counterpoint has been, well, this calendar has 91% of the same footprint as the legacy calendar of, you know, playing through the summer. I'd say, what's your counterpoint to that?
Yeah, I actually don't disagree with that. I think if I look at Minnesota United's schedule this year, the new schedule, depending on when it would start in July, we would switch we had 2 games in June and we had 1 game July 12th, home games. And now those would probably be shifted to November. November, you know, we just had our playoff game. It was brutally cold, but we survived because it was a playoff game and it was exciting. So it's not ideal to move that, but I agree with you. For the most part, the footprint is the same. I will say, though, there's a big difference between, and this isn't just in Minnesota, right? It's not pleasant on November 30th in Philadelphia, where I grew up, or in Cincinnati, or in Columbus. Michigan. Yeah, Michigan. Like all these places, more than half the league It's not very fun to be outside on November 30th. And I will say, when you're getting people out for a playoff game, it's way different. When you have this long break in the middle of the season, which for Minnesota fans, it will probably be 2.5 months, maybe even 3 months between home games. That's the real problem. And why would I go out to a game on November 30th why not just wait until the spring and start watching the league then, right? Like, that's when the stakes matter. And so by having this 2/3 of the season before the break and then a massive long break, and then you come back, it really messes with all those games and makes them pretty worthless, which already the regular season is kind of stinks, but at least for us in Minnesota, the weather's great. Like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's the doldrums of the season, but at least it's nice to be out in the stadium.
Yeah, that's a good point that, people are trying to think of is it worth it to go to this late November game when it's already going to be so long until they come back? Like, is it really worth it? Yes or no? And then it's notable that you were saying that in June, that's peak match going weather, and that's the select little portion that you're really going to lose. So
Yeah.
I could see the disappointment, there. Obviously it's not like a massive, it's a couple, 2 or 3 dates of the year.
Yeah.
But are you saying those are maybe some of the core memory making days?
Those are, I mean, it's you're losing some of your best stock, right? In the beginning of the season, you go to games. Usually there's a game the first week of March, and it's either 50 degrees or 20 degrees, or it's blizzard. Like, it's Minnesota, it could be anything. But at least it's the home opener, right? You're happy to be out there. But by the time it gets to June, that's like, oh my God, this is heaven out here. And I will say, one thing the league hasn't done in the past, and it sounds like they will do this in the future, is actually schedule the games based on weather and taking that into account, right? There are times where they'll schedule a March 2nd game at 7:30 p.m. and it would be just fine if it's 2 p.m. That'd be, middle of the day. Same thing if you're in Florida. Why are you scheduling earlier in the day games? You're trying to fit this TV schedule when you could start those games at 8 o'clock and the weather is much better. It's still humid as hell and it might storm, but at least you're adjusting there. And it does sound like the league has told Minnesota United, at least, that yes, if you've got a November game, we'll be taking that into account and we will be trying to schedule it earlier in the day so that it's, just simply cold rather than hellish and miserable.
That's a good note that they've acknowledged that they won't just, ram it into the existing TV schedule. I mean, everything was basically 7 or 7:30
yeah.
As it stands now, and at least you won't. They've noted or acknowledged that that's an issue. And I almost think that the winter break, everyone's like, oh yeah, winter break. They do it around the world at various places. But like in Germany, what's that, like 3-4 weeks? And this is much longer than that. What, 6-8 weeks?
It's 2 months, and which is what Denmark does. So Denmark's the only league that has a break that long. But when you think about how they're going to schedule the northern teams, Montreal is not playing a game in December no matter what. Montreal is not playing a game in February no matter what. So you think about maybe the latest game in Montreal is going to be November 30th, something like that. And then the first game is maybe March 15th. And Montreal is a outlier, obviously. Minnesota is somewhat of an outlier, but you've got a lot of teams where you might have this massive break, and it just, I don't know, like how do you get people to care about a team, about a league? What are you guys going to be doing all January long?
That's a good question. I haven't even. It's hard to think that far ahead. We got to think short term and long term when we're making shows like this. But that's a good point. That's 2 months without. But to be fair, whenever I have felt, what are we going to talk about? American soccer always produces something at any level, whether it be a grassroots level up to the presidency. There's always something going on in American soccer or related to it. So, moments hesitation, be like, that's a long break without any American action. But I'm sure something will occupy the airways when it comes to that. But kind of shifting gears a bit to the bar side. You said you weren't necessarily too worried because there's going to be the same amount of game days, but what outside of like the match going crowd and those specific game days, what is I'm trying to hone in on the watching crowd, like those who go to the bar on a Saturday morning to watch games across the globe on TV. Is that growing, decreasing in popularity, or what? I'm kind of curious if that's as much of a thing as it used to be.
I don't think it's as much of a thing unless it's a really established group. I think really the reason you go out to a bar on a Saturday, Sunday morning is because someone has done the work to organize a group. In the Twin Cities, there are a few EPL teams and Bayern Munich as well, who have there's the Spurs group, there's an Arsenal group, Man City, Liverpool, and then at our bar we've got a group of Wolves fans and St. Pauli fans who watch together. And really it's about people are organizing that. Someone's doing the work to kind of encourage people and build like a cohesive bond, and that's why you go out. So I think there's a few teams that have groups that are going strong that still come out, but it's definitely not growing. I think it's been pretty stagnant, and I think that's the case around other bars in the Twin Cities that open up early for soccer.
Yeah, it's the organized groups. It's not necessarily as many just random individuals that felt inclined to go. And curious, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm curious, how did you create the environment where fans of different groups all felt welcome, that it's not like, oh, that's just the Man United bar?
Yeah, I mean, it helps that, so Blackheart has existed for 7 years now, and it helps that there are places in the Twin Cities where these groups already were, and they felt happy. And so what we ended up doing is actually like absorbing all these other groups that felt like outsiders. Like, for example, Wolves fans just started to come together, and now there's like between 10 to 15 of them that will show up. St. Pauli is the same way, where I started watching St. Pauli and then our friends, and it started growing. And then sometimes we'll have 20, 25 people there watching. But the main thing is that I'm a Tottenham fan. That's how I got into soccer, but I'll sit there and make fun of Tottenham more than any, like, you can't say anything to hurt my feelings about Tottenham. I've already said way worse. And I try to create an environment where soccer is fun, and if you take it seriously, or if you are aggro about it, I guess I should say, you can take it seriously and you can be excited and you celebrate your team, and then the other team that might be watching as well, they're bummed. But like, you just don't have this, I don't know, being aggressive and lame and like it's just not my style. And so trying to create a place that is like fun. It's fun to even cheer against when Spurs play Liverpool, and my Liverpool friends are there and we're talking smack on each other. It's great, and it's a good time.
Looking ahead a little bit, we got obviously the World Cup next year. In the last couple of days, Curacao, the smallest ever team, qualified. Haiti haven't played at home in 4 years, haven't qualified for the World Cup, I think, since the 70s. Someone put a note in here. And then obviously Scotland making it for a long time. Ireland got themselves in the playoffs. So exciting stuff ahead for the World Cup. From your perspective as a bar owner, do you guys have anything planned? Or are you going to do anything special? How are you treating the World Cup?
Yeah, I started planning the World Cup. I was meeting with Anheuser-Busch folks in September because it's just going to be insane, because we're going to have games running from in Central Time, 11 a.m. to the last game will finish at 10 p.m. every day. And because they've expanded it now to the 48 teams, I don't even want to know how many days. So my family is planning just to go away for 2 weeks, just so I can work and just watch soccer the whole time. But yeah, it's going to be huge. And we're trying to figure out, we've built a patio that has that big Megan Rapinoe mural on it since the last World Cup. And the last World Cup was big, and we definitely turned people away, especially in the final. But now all of a sudden we can fit 600 people there. And so we're trying to figure out we've got one screen outside. How do we get bigger stuff? And so it's really exciting, and it's going to be stupid. I'm not going to have a vacation all summer, and just going to be miserable, but having the time of my life watching the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, all the consternation, all the outside noise and whatnot surrounding the World Cup, actually getting to the games is going to be great. So, did
Yes.
you say that you're going to have a giant screen on the outside of the bar? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, we already have one that we have watch parties there all summer long for Minnesota United, Aurora. Yeah, I mean, if Arsenal's on, we'll put that on at noon on the patio. And then I realized that we need a second bigger screen, because when the US is there, I want 300 people to be able to clearly watch it. And so yeah, it'll be massive. I haven't figured out how to do that screen yet. I think I've got to find some money.
All that sounds exciting. I can't wait to kind of be in that kind of a crowd again, watching the games like that. But I have no idea where we're going to be at come World Cup time. But dipping into the comments here, this one may not be in your arsenal, but Luke asks, what's the viability of putting a roof on the Allianz Stadium?
Zero. You'd have to. The way those things work is you'd have to completely rebuild it in order to do it. Also, I've watched soccer at US Bank Stadium, which is the Vikings. It's not a dome, but it is covered, and it's just miserable. The way sound moves in it, and the way it just all the energy gets sucked out of you. It's not fun at all. And so I wouldn't really want a dome. They are going to do, sorry, I should say though, Allianz is planning to do things like, I'm sure the premium seats are going to have under-seat heating. They're going to do things probably like infrared heating in the concourses, so that, you got 45 minutes of being out there and being cold. And then you kind of go and you can kind of mill in the concourses the way, my son and I at the playoff game, we went to get some hot chocolate. We just kind of hung out in the little cafe for a little bit to warm. It was, it was like 50 degrees in there, so we warmed up a bit. So they will be doing some infrastructure things to make it better, a better experience.
Chris in the Ultras, he says cold weather might be good for soccer bars. Bring everyone inside. Outside's cold. We come inside for the warmth and the cocktails.
Yeah, I mean, I think the perspective I have from the bar is that people are going to be there having fun. Will people winter games? Will people be? Will our patio be completely full of people hanging out for 3 hours before and 3 hours after? No, but they'll adjust in different ways, and they'll hang out inside. And then also, like for me, just with the bar, the summer, no matter what, outside of soccer is really busy, and this does things like we're a queer soccer bar, and so I'm always stressed every year that Minnesota United will schedule a home game on Pride weekend, and so far it's never happened, and now it will never happen, because I don't ever want to be directing my attention in two different ways, and Pride weekend is so special that I don't want a different event going on. So that's like a selfish little thing, but for me, this allows me to do more bigger events in the summer that aren't soccer when the weather's great and it's easy to get someone to the patio. And then soccer is always going to be good. No matter what, people are always going to want to hang out before and after the game.
Anything of this scale, the calendar switch, we won't know the true ramifications until it happens and we're a couple years in. But as we stand now, roughly a week after the news became official, what do you see as the pros and cons from your perspective in Minnesota?
Of just the calendar change overall? Yeah. I think the I don't see much of a pro, other than I totally understand the playoffs. You want them in a perfect place like May. I understand the logic that the league has there. I don't think there's many pros. I don't think there's I don't think the worries I had are as big, because I think the winter break is longer. And now that I see really they're starting in mid-July, which is not that bad for us. I just think really the new cons is that long winter break. And I think the doing just a regular season and then a playoff is going to make the first, that October, November just worthless and boring. And I wonder, if you've got these teams who are crap coming out of the gates, will people show up again in February? If you've got these kind of New England Revolutions or Montreal's or whatever, just the teams that forever are kind of like crap. Like, will fans continue to walk away? And I think that prioritizing TV outside of ahead of fan experience is a bad decision. I think overall the league continues to forget that what makes it unique and special is that stadium experience, and that is what translates to the television. And they instead want to be the NFL. And I think that, you talked right before I came on about Gary Stevenson, the deputy commissioner. I don't know if you saw the quote that he gave. It was in Jeff Reuter, formerly of the New York Times and Athletic, in his Substack that he has now. He said, this guy, Gary Stevenson, said, our plan is to double the fans for 2026. And then after that, we're going to double it again. And then after that, we're going to double it again. It's like compound interest. And I have to say, that is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard a human being say. And it's just, I'm very worried about the league not understanding how things work, and that it's run by a bunch of people who used to work at Deloitte and have MBAs.
In our current era that we are living through, saying that this is the dumbest thing you've heard, that saying something, that bar is really, really high or really, Robert, really low, depending on how you
talk to drunk people all day long at my job, and I've heard some crazy things. It's the dumbest thing I've heard. So
yeah, I might need to work at a bar one of these days soon. Talking to drunk people about soccer, fun or not?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, to be serious, being around drunk people is it gets a little much. But yeah, I mean, in its overall, it's fun. Just what I love about soccer is you can just talk shit and just say things, and like it's fun. It's just fun to talk about Eric Ramsey and how mad people are about long throw-ins and stuff like that. It's fun to relive moments, and yeah, and it's fun getting tipsy and just enjoying these moments together. I happened to miss the after party at my own bar for the playoff game because I had to go do actual parenthood things, but people had a blast, and then the team owner came over to the bar and sang Wonderwall during karaoke, and it was just a blast. So
fun is fun, and yeah, that sounds excellent. And having ownership stop by to sing the song, that sounds absolutely delightful and lots of fun indeed. Well, thank you so much for kind of sharing the perspective there. You see a lot of things online. Obviously, people reasonably vocal about change. Change can suck, and modern changes tend to skew negative, but it's good to get the boots on the ground, so to speak, perspective of the reaction in Minnesota. And congrats on having success. I mean, the Minnesota MLS fan base hasn't necessarily had a ton of big things to cheer for so far. So it's exciting that they were able to share with you.
Yeah, and we'll see how this playoff season goes. I think we're playing with house money at this point. We've got, again, MLS amazing decisions. Minnesota has had to play now 3 of its playoff games on Monday nights, and so we've got a Monday night 9 p.m. local time to watch the playoffs against San Diego. But we put a spanking on San Diego during the season away at San Diego, and so hopefully we can do it again and keep on driving people like Matt Doyle crazy. They just hate set pieces. So
well, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Thanks for joining the Morning Kickaround and sharing your perspective. Do you have any work for people to check out, or any bar specials you can share?
Yeah, I'm anytime people, I see one of the comments there from Sluggo of wanting to come check out the bar. It is great when we get traveling fans except for the one Columbus fan who took a piss on the patio. We remember that, Columbus. No, but we love when people come, because Minnesota is like so separate from the country, and whenever people come, we have a great time. We had Austin fans here when they beat us in the semifinal, and then it was like 100 of them at the bar hanging out, and they behaved well, and someone from the team put everything on the company card, and so all the Minnesota fans just kept on drinking on Anthony Precourt's dime. So thank you, Tony Precourt, for buying $2,500 worth of drinks.
Best contribution to Midwest soccer, perhaps.
Yep. No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Great stuff. Wes Bordon, everybody from Minnesota, bar owner and soccer guru in the Twin Cities. Thank you everyone for participating in the show. Great comments. Appreciate all the MK Ultras getting in the mix and helping me out on my solo day here today on Morning Kickaround. So be sure to like, subscribe, become a member on YouTube. You can even email us. I haven't thrown that out in a while. morningkickaround@gmail.com. We do get some great stuff over there. So I want to remind you, if you want to send a message outside of Discord and outside of the comments on the video, hit us up, morningkickaround@gmail.com. All right. Let's end the show there. So much going on, and collect our thoughts. Come back on Friday. Another great show on the way. So until then, everybody, enjoy your soccer.